Bom dia, gente. Bom dia, gente. Muito frio aí? Oi, Vati. Tudo bom? Bom dia. Bom dia, gente. Muito frio aí? Oi, Vati. Tudo bom? Bom dia. Bom dia, gente. Muito frio aí? Oi, Vati. Tudo bom? Bom dia. Bom dia, gente. Muito frio aí? Oi, Vati. Tudo bom? Bom dia. Bom dia, gente. Muito frio aí? Oi, Vati. Tudo bom? Bom dia. Bom dia, gente. Muito frio aí? Oi, Vati. Tudo bom? Bom dia.
Ah, como se você estivesse falando. Fecha aí. Ah, como se você estivesse falando. Fecha aí. Você abrir aqui, vai tocar lá. Tá ouvindo aí? Vê agora. Ligou aqui, ó. Não tá indo? Você abrir aqui, vai tocar lá. Não é aquele lá que você cortou lá, não? Ah, é porque eu acho que você está na cena errada aqui, pô. Eu acho que era esse aqui, ó. Dispositivo de captura de áudio. Vê agora. Ligou aqui, ó. Esse câmera filme aqui, tá indo nessa cena aqui. Nesse câmera filme aqui tem um dispositivo de captura de áudio. Que dispositivo é esse? Você abrir de vídeo. Sim, não, pode apagar essas outras, na verdade, programação. Ah, é porque eu acho que você está na cena errada aqui. Sério, tá? Já tá, já tem. Era esse aqui, ó. Mas você tem que capturar o áudio da Bíblia. Vê agora. Dispositivo de captura? Esse aqui de vídeo? Esse câmera filme aqui, saída ou entrada? Nessa cena aqui. Nesse câmera filme aqui tem um dispositivo de captura de áudio. Não sei, ali está como entrada ou saída? Vídeo? Entrada? Ah, é porque eu acho que você está na cena errada aqui. Sério? Mas você tem que capturar o áudio da Bíblia. Médico? Dispositivo de captura? Esse aqui de vídeo? É, agora. Onde? Esse? Onde? A propriedade? Mas você tem que capturar o áudio da médico. Tipo o quê? Então bota a entrada.
Tem que reconhecer o boneco médico aqui, tá?
É, agora. Onde? Esse? Onde? A propriedade? Esse não, né? Então é o...
Tem que reconhecer o boneco médico aqui, tá?
Esse aqui tá como entrada de microfone. É, deixa eu ver. Aqui eu tenho que botar como entrada também. É isso. Aqui, ó, Black. Esse não, né? Então é o...
Tem que reconhecer o boneco médico aqui, tá?
Esse aqui tá como entrada de microfone. É, deixa eu ver. Aqui eu tenho que botar como entrada também. É isso. Aqui, ó, Black. Esse não, né? Então é o... Esse aqui tá como entrada de microfone. É, deixa eu ver. Aqui eu tenho que botar como entrada também. É isso. Aqui, ó, Black. Esse não, né? Então é o... Esse aqui está como entrada de microfone. Deixa eu ver. Aqui eu tenho que botar como entrada também. Ó. É isso. Aqui, ó. Black.
Alô, alô, olá, 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 olá. Reconheceu já, reconheceu já. Alô, som, teste, 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 1, 2, 3, som, teste, teste, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Isso. É só clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá. Isso. Então, só fica um. Tá não, tá ok, tá bom.
Agora tá na live, né?
Alô, olá, olá. Reconheceu já. Alô, som, teste, teste, 1, 2, 3, som, teste, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Isso. É só clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá. Isso. Então, só fica um. Tá não, tá ok, tá bom.
Agora tá na live, né?
Alô, olá. Reconheceu já. Alô, som, teste, 1, 2, 3, som, teste, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Isso. É só clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá. Isso. Então, só fica um. Tá não, tá ok, tá bom. Alô, olá. Reconheceu já. Alô, som, teste, 1, 2, 3, som, teste, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Isso. É só clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá, clicar lá. Isso. Então, só fica um. Tá não, tá ok, tá bom.
Pera aí, vê agora aí. Mudei aqui o microfone. Marcelo, cadê o Marcelo? Tá falando.
Alô, olá.
Marcelo tá lá. Mudei o microfone, vê aí.
Tá não, tá ok, tá bom.
Pera aí, vê agora aí. Mudei aqui o microfone. Marcelo, cadê o Marcelo? Tá falando. Marcelo tá lá. Hã? Mudei o microfone, vê aí. Pera aí, vê agora aí. Tô diminuindo aqui, ó. Meu celular que fala de Olha só diminuir lá na mesa. Está sumindo na mesa.
Marcelo, desliga esse microfone certinho, por favor.
Tô diminuindo aqui, ó. Meu celular que fala de Olha só diminuir lá na mesa. Está sumindo na mesa.
Brasil, mas onde Deus também o viu, de amor e de esperança sido fácil. Nunca foi fácil para o CNPq, né? O, o Fábio estava me dizendo ali que leu o livro de 50 anos do CNPq e viu que até nós com pouca... Está até bom hoje, né? Pelo que a gente conversa, porque aos 70 anos ele viu lá que também a coisa não era fácil, não. Nunca foi fácil, né? A ciência é algo diferenciado, né? Não é melhor nem pior que nada, mas é diferente, é uma atividade diferenciada, e isso nos traz algumas dificuldades. Mas para enfrentar os desafios, desde que nós chegamos aqui, nós nos unimos aqui numa parceria muito intrínseca com a Academia Brasileira de Ciências, da qual eu tenho a honra de ser membro também, assim como o Marcelo está aqui, e outros, o Odir também, e esse aqui da minha área lá também na Academia Brasileira de Ciências, e outros que, porventura, também fazem parte, mas é muito importante a gente ter essa parceria, porque é muito difícil e é inapropriado, né, dirigir uma instituição como o CNPq da cabeça do presidente. Isso não pode existir mais, né? Então, a academia tem sido uma cabeça para a gente, mas é muito importante. E eu quero agradecer a Elisa, todo mundo aqui que está também da academia aqui nos acompanhando, né? E, em rápidas palavras, eu não quero tomar aqui o tempo inicial, mas eu gostaria muito também, nessa parte de agradecimento, agradecer o RH, a diretoria, o pessoal do RH do CNPq, que fez uma linda obra, né, retratando aqui de 1910 a 15 e a 19 a qualidade de vida do servidor no CNPq. Então, é um trabalho histórico, né? Porque é raro a gente ver isso, né? E é um guia para se trabalhar a qualidade de vida dos servidores do CNPq, que a gente não deixa nunca de agradecer o empenho, né, de muitos deles em apoio à gestão do CNPq. Nós estamos com o Roberto aqui, que representa
Recording in progress.
e que tem sido também um parceiro nosso. Quero aqui agradecer muito. Além desses... Bom, gente, é todo mundo amigo, né? Estou vendo o Marcelo aqui. A gente tem uma convivência muito grande. O doutor Júlio, enfim, se eu for agradecer todo mundo aqui e fazer a referência, a gente vai retardar um pouco mais a nossa audiência. Então, sintam-se todos, por favor, Dia, nosso presidente do CONFAP, aqui vários membros das FAPs estão aqui, das Fundações de Amparo à Pesquisa dos Estados, né? Uma parceria muito permanente. O nosso jurídico está aqui, a Procuradoria, a Auditoria, enfim, todos vocês, servidores do CNPq, aqueles que estão online, por favor, sintam-se abraçados nesse momento e recebam os nossos agradecimentos. Eu queria também aproveitar para cumprimentar o embaixador da Irlanda, que está aqui conosco, o senhor Roy, que ele esteve conosco ontem, né? Nessa retomada agora da parceria internacional, e recebeu um pouco prejudicado, ficou muito prejudicado com a pandemia, mas que agora a gente retoma. Seja muito bem-vindo ao CNPq. Os comentários que eu tenho a fazer nesse início, bem rápido, né? Agradecer mais uma vez também a nossa equipe aqui, constituída pela Concom, né, a comunicação, que fez esse trabalho todo, faz todo o trabalho com a ajuda de muitos dos servidores, Rafael aqui também, a parte de audiovisual. Enfim, a gente tem lutado com muitos desafios, mas a gente está rompendo. Isso que é a boa notícia, né? A gente está conseguindo, inclusive agora, recentemente, a gente conseguiu aprovar no Conselho Deliberativo do CNPq uma nova estrutura orgânica que está em andamento, está sendo negociada ainda com os ministérios e com a própria casa, que nós temos uma comissão para entrar mais em detalhe, mas a gente retoma, né, isso já foi aprovado no Conselho, a gente retoma a diretoria científica do CNPq, uma sinalização clara de que o CNPq é uma única ciência, né, e que essa ciência tem que ser trabalhada no conjunto dela, né? Nós temos que realmente formar redes internas, nós exigimos redes externas e temos que fazer redes internas de trabalho para aumentar a eficiência do nosso CNPq. Então, a gente consegue ver, assim, com tudo que está acontecendo, com o nosso trabalho, a nossa equipe toda, servidores, a comunidade, a ABC, o Ministério, então, todo esse envolvimento, a gente consegue ver um futuro muito bom para o CNPq, porque o CNPq, ele é parte do futuro desse país. A gente não imagina nunca, né, que um país possa desenvolver sem entidades como o CNPq, como a CAPES, como a FINEP, enfim, as fundações de amparo à pesquisa dos estados, enfim, o CNPq é parte intrínseca, né, do futuro desse país, se a gente persegue e continua perseguindo, né, como é desejo de todos, um país melhor, um país mais justo, menos desigual, e um país que possa dar aos nossos talentos o devido reconhecimento para o desenvolvimento e prosperidade do nosso país. Então, eu desejo de todos um país melhor. Nós estamos aqui comemorando os 70 anos, né? É a última atividade dos 70 anos, nós fizemos várias, mas iniciamos 71, então é mais um agora, né, nessa trajetória, e a gente espera que o CNPq tenha possibilidade de continuar, então, essa sua trajetória, como ele sempre fez, né? Iniciando lá no apoio à pesquisa. Quando o almirante Álvaro Alberto iniciou o CNPq, criou o CNPq, por motivação dele, ali nós começamos a financiar pesquisas com recurso público, né, no Brasil. E de lá para cá a gente ajudou a construir essa comunidade de ciência e tecnologia, que nós não tínhamos, e viemos aperfeiçoando. Então, o que eu gostaria muito de encerrar aqui é com essa mensagem que é muito importante para toda a nossa comunidade. De lá para cá a gente ajudou a observar isso, né? Nós criamos o CNPq, que foi fundamental para termos uma comunidade de ciência, tecnologia e inovação, e essa comunidade cresceu, ela hoje tem áreas muito robustas, e a gente continua reforçando essa comunidade. Mas a nossa meta agora, ela pode ser a meta de entregar benefícios para a sociedade, porque esse é o princípio que o Álvaro Alberto plantou lá fora, lá no início. Nós temos que criar comunidade, desenvolver,
to create, develop, and have an active community, delivering benefits in terms of employment generation, income generation, and prosperity for our country, because the economy today depends on science. There's no way we cannot leave knowledge aside. It has to be in the forefront. So thank you very much. Our minister will join us. Our minister, Paulo Alvim. I would like to thank also our astronaut minister. We had a very fruitful relationship with the minister. He has always received and welcomed CNPq very well, and I would like to acknowledge publicly Minister Marcos Pontes, and now Minister Paulo Alvim, who is a colleague. I've known Paulo Alvim, fruitful relationship with the minister. He has for a long time, always meeting, always doing activities together. He is very close to science and technology, and also in entrepreneurship in technology. And so Paulo Alvim is expected to arrive at any time, and we'll give him the floor. I'm sorry, because I get emotional, and so I speak more than perhaps I spoke too long. So thank you. Entrepreneurship in technology, and with the floor, the president of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, Professor Luis Davidovich. Because I get emotional. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm also very emotional. The last time I was here was more than 2 years ago for obvious reasons, and I remember a lot about our discussions, and well, the themes are recurring about budgets for science and technology, and it is a great joy to resume our in-person meetings, recognizing or seeing for the first time, meeting for the first time in person, people that I have met online. And so we can now see whether the image on the screen matches the live image. And well, it seems that the live images are better than online, because I was almost beginning to believe that the world was flat and that the earth was flat, but now I see a multi-dimensional audience, and it's a great joy. So it's a pleasure to be here. I believe that many of you here have benefited from CNPq in your training. I consider myself a product of CNPq due to the support I received, the grants I received, and here I am now as a researcher, scientist. But when I was a student, I already had CNPq as a standard of excellence and merit, which is a function that it exercises until now, which is so important for a scientific community to have these standards, to have these assessments, these evaluations. CNPq does this individually, and this is very important for Brazilian science, for the scientific community, for the whole of Brazilian society. I have a document here, a text. I don't really like reading, but I was told that I have 12 minutes to speak, so I'd rather read, because then I can easily, and this is very important, use up the time allotted to me. So I will read and make some comments. So it is important to restate that the institutionalization of support to science in Brazil began of CNPq. This was less than a year after the establishment of the National Science Foundation in the US. And this event was contemporary of the first discussions on a Ministry of Science and Technology in the UK and consolidation of funding organizations in France and other countries. Now, why did all this occur at the same time? Obviously, as in the aftermath of the Second World War. It was a new kind of energy, also nuclear energy, bringing about possibilities of progress, but also the terror of events such as Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And so this alerted countries to the importance of science. And there was already this acknowledgement during the Second World War, but also radar and many defense mechanisms, and governments wanted to extend these mechanisms to time. Also in the protagonism of these countries in the international scenario. So Brazil joined this new world order very quickly, just a year after the creation of the National Science Foundation. CNPq was founded. And well, it wasn't so surprising, because this crowned the effort of many years of the scientific community.
In fact, almost 35 years before the establishment of CNPq, in 1916, we founded the ABC, and in 1919, there was a proposal for an agency to foment science. And then the president of the ABC in 35, 37, and 49, and 51 forwarded the proposal for the foundation of this agency to the president of the time. And the CNPq in 51 was established, representing major incentive to basic science that were not very well developed on that occasion. And since then, the CNPq has been the house of scientists and qualified professionals. After, I would like to say to you that I would like to compliment CNPq of people who are currently involved in this major event and this major development and breakthrough and conquest of the Brazilian society, which is the CNPq. So I'd like to welcome and salute Sérgio Freitas of the Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, also Evaldo Vilela, member of the Brazilian Academy of Science, president of CNPq, major scientist in the area of agriculture, livestock raising, bringing an important contribution to our documents here at the ABC, and also Marcelo Morales, director of the Ministry of Science and Technology, also contributing to our agency. And also we have had major dialogue with Sérgio Freitas, Marcelo Morales, and not important just to ABC or CNPq, but to Brazilian science as a whole. Also Zaira Turki, who has also been very active in this collaboration with the Brazilian Science Academy. And also those who work at CNPq, contributing, they are motivated, they are involved and engaged, as well as Roberto Muniz. And also Odi Delagostin, the president of CONFAP, who has also been a major partner. This partnership is consolidated also through an institution whose executive secretary is Fábio Guedes, FAPEAL, the Initiative of Science and Technology in the Brazilian Parliament. So they are institutions, and institutions are invented by human beings, and they are major institutions. Thank you. The Initiative of Science and Technology. They allow this interlocution with the Brazilian Parliament, invented by human beings, and they are major institutions. Also, staff of ABC, the Brazilian Science Academy. Mr. Cruz, who organizes our communication and also staff of ABC, coordinates our partnership with the ABC, together with Mariana of CNPq as well, who's also participating in the book that celebrates the 70 years of CNPq. This is a major date to be celebrated and makes us remember all the intertwining of histories between ABC and CNPq. Also participating. So they are landmarks of the past, they persist in the present, and they are the consolidation for our future to be celebrated. And we have helped intertwining of. We have helped bringing about support to researchers together with universities, diversifying areas of research and international exchange. The consolidation, working also with research networks with institutions of science, technology and innovation. This effort of liaison, it would be difficult to imagine the international protagonism of our companies in so many areas, aviation, agriculture, health, cosmetics, electrical goods, etc. Institutions of attempting to help us with all the difficulties that are intrinsic to its history, together with the science and technology technology sector in Brazil. In 72, we only had about 100 researchers in Brazil who help us. At FAPES, it was published. Intrinsic to this number, this figure was together published with quite a few of those institutions in Brazil had to face major difficulties. For example, Butantan used to only produce vaccines, but no research, and resources were very limited to some state and federal level published resources, as well as some fellowships provided by the Rockefeller Foundation. This was in 1951. Remember, this figure, less than 100 researchers. And resources were very limited. In 2002, we are talking about 200,000 researchers, 130,000 of them had doctor's degrees. This was in until 2016. The number of doctor's degrees grew 278%. This is CNPq's success in numbers. But we still have a long way to go in challenges for the future. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the future. I know it was a joke, and also I apologize with the economists here present, but 278%. We are going to have a table, a round table in numbers, but we still tomorrow. Have a long way to go. So we certainly have major challenges, especially regarding investment, research and development in Brazil that has been reduced in Brazil recently. It is curious because the GDP reduces and the percentage increases without any additional effort by the government. Other countries invested 2%, Germany and the US, Japan and Switzerland over 3%, Israel and South Korea over 4.5% of their GDPs applied into research and development. Brazilians and the percentage schooling level are quite low. Only 20% of the population between 25 and 74 years of age have tertiary education, and very few graduate in engineering and mathematics. In education, it is the same. Out of 19% of the total in 2012, it went to 8% in the budget of 2022. Public universities, major producers of technology and research, and very few in the country are going through major cuts. In education, this is the challenge for the future. We need to overcome that. And I here salute the Minister Paulo Alfi. In the budget of 2022, we have over 900 researchers per million inhabitants, quite different from OECD countries. Israel and South Korea over 8,000 per 1 million. In the last measure of the global innovation level index, Brazil is behind Mexico and Costa Rica, 61 and behind Chile, Peru, Costa Rica, etc. And this is considering the parity of purchase power parity. But people ask, well, are we going to talk about that now when we celebrate our 70th anniversary? Yes, we need to talk about the present situation so that we can move along and for a better future. Parity of purchase power parity. But people ask, well, So the persistent and visionary campaign that culminated with the foundation of CNPq encourages a glance towards the future. Science can help mitigate regional and national inequalities, also add value to exports, reinforcing health and food security, improving education, building a future based on a green economy, conserving and making good use of natural resources. It should be taken into account that, according to the IMF publication, this research affects quite a lot of areas in all countries. This is essential for the economy in the country. This impact ends up being not as effective if we have no basic science. And according to the CNPq will have its major role supporting and encouraging all areas of science. Essential for the economy in the country. We have a scarcity of resources for research. If we have no basic science, we need to associate our university to the creativity of those who supporting wish a country with all areas of science, more research, technology, and innovation. This is also the commitment of the ABC. We are going to be together in the future too. Long live CNPq. Thank you.
Anunciamos a chegada do ministro da Ciência e Tecnologia.
We have now the arrival of our Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Mr. Paulo Alvim. He has the floor. We are going to be together. I apologize. It is a shame I couldn't be here earlier. It is great that you spoke about this timeline. So Evaldo is my friend, it is great, Professor Zaira, Og, Carlos Alberto, Thales, he has the floor. All directors. I apologize. It is a shame I couldn't, and all collaborators of CNPq. It is great that you spoke about this, know many of them. So it is great to be here, Evaldo. I also had a fellowship by CNPq. In these 70 years, the country owes a lot to CNPq, and many Brazilians were part of this path, and I may even say that it was the top of Brazilian society, Brazilians who contributed and will contribute. The pandemic showed us the importance of science. We are converted. We know about the role of science. We are part of this system of science, technology, and innovation. OG, my friend, Marcos, and will contribute. Peregrino is not here. Should be. I'm sure he's online. The country of science. I know him. We are converted. I've known him for quite a while. Rafael, who is online, and we are part of this system. Many people who actually made Brazilian science in their institutions. But CNPq is always there. And Ambassador Sean, I thank you for your attendance, reiterating the importance of collaboration at the international level. And CNPq has also been essential for us to build cooperation ties. Is always there. Science has no barriers or frontier. Your attendance, reiterating the importance
And
of
in the pandemic, we
collaboration at the international level.
realized how
And
significant this union
CNPq has
is.
also been essential for us to build
So today is a celebration
cooperation
day.
ties.
It was last year, but we didn't have the possibility of holding our celebration. But it's always great to celebrate a CNPq anniversary. And I thank our team, Sérgio, Marcelo, Contijo, Júlio, how significant Alex, everyone who's here. They have a direct link with CNPq, and they also have a concern with CNPq. Holding our celebration, but concern with CNPq is cross-cutting. And I thank in the Ministry of Science and Technology. So I'm going to draw a different timeline because I had the opportunity to participate when the ministry was built 36 years ago. So the ministry in its construction relied on the collaboration of CNPq. It was CNPq collaborators. That was the initial workforce of the ministry. And this even created some antagonism at the time because there was actually some brain drain at the time, because this is a house of brains, of unique collaborators in our republic. The ministry has a very close relationship with CNPq, with other linked organizations, but a very close, very intimate relationship with CNPq. It sometimes creates difficulties because Evaldo says, oh, well, sometimes we say to Evaldo, listen, we want so and so at the ministry, and Evaldo says, no, don't take him away from us. But he is a dear friend and very understanding. But today is a celebration, and I had to be here with you, highlighting very intimate relationship, the role of CNPq. Professor Luiz, you can be sure that the ministry is committed, pledged to support you, especially now, but he is a dear friend that we had Bill 177, a fight highlighting of the role of all those who are engaged with science and on behalf of Brazilian society. So we are starting first to honor our commitments in the area of science and technology and with the science and technology community. So all our pledges and commitments that existed here at CNPq, they have been honored. So as far as I know from Evaldo, we have weekly meetings to monitor this. It's a war effort. And so we have already pledged 1.7 million of our FNDCT resources and funds. And so this is again, irrigating science and technology. And one of the areas is precisely the strengthening of CNPq, which is something that needs to be done very intensely, as we have always done, but more than that, as we have to do. So it's a pledge for this year. We also have a challenge again posed by my friend Ojir, which is the recovery of the grant amount. My colleague Marcelo has been leading this with other colleagues from CAPES, so it is a pledge that we have made, and we are confident that very shortly we will have positive information about this. So it's a pledge, a historical pledge of recovering these amounts, but it involves other ministries, not only as decision makers, but also as it has an impact on the budget of other ministries. And so this has to be built very quickly, and we are confident, and we have to move very quickly towards this. I'm sorry, I'm getting all these messages, I get lost. You know what an engineer's mind is like, right? So we have to be prepared for everything, right? So what I would like to do well, you can be sure that CNPq has our full support, and we have to move very quickly towards this. We will soon have some good news, some surprises, because of some situations that we have here. It might be great news for this segment, but the commitment, the pledge. So what I would like to do is to build a more stable situation, recovering the historical role of CNPq, and also the calls for proposals in partnership with the states. FINEP has already launched some, but we want CNPq to continue coordinating with the Science and Technology Secretariats and the state research foundations so that we can again have what we deserve and deliver what the science and technology community deserves. And also, isn't sustainability in a country if you don't invest heavily in science and technology. Heavily. It's not just investing, it's investing a lot. Science and technology, and the state, going back to talks given by Professor Elena, it's an investment, but it is strategic. That's the difference. If we want to have strategically in science and technology above the standards, the current levels, without this, we will hardly be able. It is strategic because this is a key arm of the activities of the ministry. So thank you so much for the invitation. I am honored. It's an investment as a former student, grant student. I am very honored, very rewarding. Someone who has worked in science and technology from the early days in the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, and part also in FINEP with colleagues from CNPq, and also in the foundations, the research support foundations. I am activities of the ministry. Quite moved to celebrate the 70th anniversary of CNPq. It's a milestone for me, and I have to thank CNPq as a citizen, as a professional, and now as Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation. Thank you so much, and long live CNPq. Thank you so much. And part also in FINEP with colleagues from CNPq, and also in the foundations, the research support foundations. I am activities of the ministry. Quite moved to, I would like to break the protocol and ask for your permission. First, to thank Paulo Alvim for his kind words. It is a huge pleasure to have Paulo Alvim with us in the celebration of the 70th anniversary of CNPq, and it's a lot of emotion, a lot of joy, because you deserve it and the community deserves it, and we need you. We really need you, Minister. And as I said, I would like to thank also former Minister Márcio Pontes, our astronaut, who has also had very close ties with CNPq. And with your permission, I would like to make a correction. I said in the beginning that I was very moved, and it's true. I even forgot to acknowledge my directors, my own directors. I cannot leave this session without thanking Zaira, our right arm, Carlos Alberto, our left arm, and also Orgi, and with the platform, and astronaut who has also another arm, and with your permission, accompanied by Raquel Merindo, that I was very moved, and it's true. I even forgot. And now I feel lighter. Thank you so much. My own directors. I cannot leave this session without conclude the opening session thanking Minister Paulo Alvim, and we ask all of you to remain seated for the launching of the CNPq magazine. Also, another arm, and with your permission, accompanied by Raquel Merindo, that I was very moved, and it's true. I even forgot. And now I feel lighter. Thank you so much. My own directors. I cannot leave the session without conclude the opening session, thanking Minister Paulo Vim, and we ask all of you to remain seated for the launching of the CNPq.
Neste momento, convidamos à mesa.
We would like to invite the professor of the University of Fortaleza and also productivity, Normanda de Araújo Moraes. And now I feel lighter. Thank you so much. My old directors, I cannot leave the session without conclude the opening session, thanking Minister Paulo Vim, and we ask all of you to remain seated for the launching of the CNPq.
Neste momento, convidamos à mesa.
We would like to invite the professor of the University of Fortaleza.
Em um esforço conjunto do CNPq com a Academia Brasileira
In a
de
joint
Ciências.
effort of CNPq with the Brazilian Academy of Science, we launched Revista Q, designed to strengthen the relevance of CNPq along its history. The name Revista Q is a provocation and homage to science. As all scientific studies, the proposal of this publication is to give rise to questions and seek answers and promote dialogue in order to produce a publication that questions, provokes, pursues, celebrates, promotes, and incentivizes. And to present this publication, we will hear Professor Normanda Moraes, member of the editorial committee and head editor of the scientific committee as the publication. Good morning. Good morning. It is a pleasure to be here. Seek answers and promote dialogue. I am a young researcher, and so you can imagine that I'm a bit nervous, but I would like to say that Professor Evaldo is making things easier for me, because he is also emotional, and that creates rapport between us. So I'd like to thank you for the opportunity, and also thank on behalf of Professor Evaldo and also Professor Davidovich. I would like to thank the Brazilian Academy of Science, and very strongly thank my colleagues from the editorial committee, if possible, breaking some protocols, because that's the way I am. I would like Juliana Martins Ferreira, also emotional, and that analyst, to stand up, because science has a face. And I would like to thank you. Also thank Mariana Galiza, communication manager for CNPq, who also very strongly comprise the editorial committee, and also Elisa Osvaldo Cruz, communication manager of ABC. That's the way I am. She will punish me later for this, but she is the one who orchestrated this editorial committee. It's a great responsibility to be here representing such strong women. I met as a researcher. I had already met some CNPq staff through emails and issues like that. But I would like to say that it is very rewarding to work with people like you. And I am sure that you represent a high-quality group. You are very unique staff members, and I would like to make this acknowledgement here. I would also like to thank the Moldy team who helped us with the graphic issues like that, design and layout, Gabriel Martins, and also with people like you. Every color, every photograph, every letter was thought and discussed, because we believe that our community needs quality in every detail. So that's our starting point. Also, the administrative committee of CNPq with 8 staff members who worked closely with us, and also the editors, the scientific editors of the different sections, scientific sections, who worked closely with me. 6 Brazilian researchers. And this is the cover of Revista Q, a publication that celebrates, that questions, that provokes, and that combines, well, there is this play of words, right, with the name of the publication, and also different we want to pay homage to science closely with me. Science that provokes us, that takes us to higher levels, especially in our quality of life.
So this publication was dreamt of based on some principles. One of them that is very dear to us was to show the past, the present, and the future of CNPq. We need to have an analysis of the past, honoring what has been done, but we need to have a view of the future too. Our articles have contributions based on some principles. Civil servants, that is very dear to us, both those working and also retired ones. Obviously, also we need to researchers and fellows and people who receive grants for their research. We also used several of the future data already produced by CNPq, statistics, indicators, the center of memory, civil servants. We also both held a consultation to researchers. And Anderson, can you go back one? The publication has 5 sections with 230 pages. We're going to go through it briefly. We would like to raise awareness about this publication and to encourage you to disseminate it. These are the sessions: institutional, research, innovation, who makes CNPq, and the Q generation, talking about the future and new researchers that are arriving to us. It is illustrated with photos that won awards about this publication. The cover won the award in 2014. Institutional research, the publication tells us a story of 70 years, so it is a major challenge. And also, in addition, we have a history and also touching on the crisis of the pandemics, and the award includes the whole of history and society. The NPQ has also been a decisive, a major challenge player during the pandemic, in addition, liaising and orchestrating the presence and the work of researchers. I also would like to reiterate that it was very important for us to value all areas of knowledge. This has always been a concern for us. The NPQ has also writes what sector in science, etc. Also, we wanted to guarantee diversity regarding geography and gender. We focused on the major values that need to permeate science, and the publication is a small case, let's say, based on this value. Also, something that was very important to us in the publication was that the articles needed to have an idea of disseminating science, not only for technical or academic people to read. It is a publication that should be disseminated in your family, for example. Another important value that we added was to consider not only senior scientists, renowned nationally and internationally, but also to honor young scientists who have also made good difference in our science. These three first articles are by professors who are here, Helena Nada, Davidov. They are wonderful, and they defend science in Brazil, something that is essential for the development of our nation. They weigh and cover also the subject of reduced funds. We already do that. And science needs to be a policy of the state and not of government. I'd like to reiterate that. This is the institutional session, the largest, I believe, in the publication. We also have articles covering the history of CNPq, reduced funds. Also be very interesting because this is a timeline dating back to the establishment of CNPq until today. We have testimonies of 7 former presidents of CNPq covering the history of CNPq. All our presidents also be very interesting because this is a timeline. This article shows the role of CNPq in fighting COVID-19. It covers the volume of funds spent, the areas, the regional diversity in the distribution of funds, and also shows how much we had to run to work remotely in fighting COVID-19. In less than 1 month, covers the volume of funds. We started the lockdown. So this article touches on that. In the distribution of funds. This article brings subsidies to a lot of our conversations. Data, statistics, number of fellowships, grants, publications, the distribution of them around the country, etc. We started the lockdown. We have 2 articles that value scientific dissemination because it's essential to science. Number of fellowships, grants, publications, distribution of them. These are the awards awarded by CNPq. We have 2 articles that value scientific dissemination. Because the award called Almirante Barreto for Science and Technology. Brazilian researchers have in their histories CNPq. Awarded by CNPq. We have 2 articles. This is noteworthy. This is what we're talking about. It's a huge difference in our qualifications. Have in their histories CNPq. Awarded by CNPq. So who makes CNPq? This is another session. This is what we're talking about. This was built based on collecting testimonies of civil servants of CNPq, those active and those retired. And there are questions about the next as well as what does it mean to be part of CNPq? This is another session.
Nós perguntamos a alguns servidores aposentados
And we asked some retired servants what it was like for them to be part of CNPq. And in their perception, as well as those who are active, they are proud of being part. Questions about the next as well as what does this is the heart of CNPq. This is a scientific session with several areas, and we asked with several researchers, and we defined some central or core knowledge areas. And we invited some specific names to write these 11 articles. Being part.
De temáticas, né? Então a resposta
many different themes, the response of Brazilian scientists, translational and technological responses, with several other areas, epidemiology as well regarding the pandemic, and we defined some the development of vaccines. This is very interesting. Because we invited a journalist to write these 11 articles. She interviewed several researchers involved in the production of vaccines, the response of Brazilians, the development of ventilators, artificial intelligence, bioinformatics or bio-IT, contributions of psychology, education, and protagonism of teachers and professors. The role of art. We invited a journalist.
Das questões climáticas, saúde planetária,
climate change and planet health, the involved in the SDGs, and also the development of negationism and fake news, the anti-science policies, and there is no safe world without science. The response to a better life comes from science, definitely. And this is a survey that we carried out with area committees of CNPq. It was an online consultation about the way they perceived the evaluation or assessment of CNPq in several knowledge areas. The challenges they see without science, and also actions to overcome such challenges comes from science, definitely. And this, there are a survey that we carried 21 answers, and we closed the scientific session with 2 articles covering the NPQ, covering the participation of women in science and also the inequality in gender that still persists. To overcome such challenges. We also talked about the interview with 2 researchers. These photographs were awarded the CNPq award. Then we have the session on innovation with 2 articles covering the participation of women in science and the legal inequality in gender framework regarding startups and entrepreneurship, as well as the role of the National Industry Confederation in Brazil. researchers. And then we have a session called Generation Q, talking to innovation, a generation that involves new researchers, new scientists, and entrepreneurship. Professor Elise and Mariana, Juliana were very careful about this session, I beg your pardon. It's great to share, and then you can talk to teenagers about it, to children, talking about the scientific method. And to conclude, we asked simple questions to major scientists.
So we asked about productivity, and they all have relatives or teachers who genuinely mobilize their interest in science. And so we have very moving accounts of scientists telling us about their vision, what is required to become a scientist, how they were attracted to science, and what moves them in science. And so these are very moving accounts. And we conclude with this photograph. They all have relatives. Well, this is what we hope for as editorial committee. We wish with and also praising the quality of the human resources contributing to the development of our country. It's always important never to lose sight that we are doing science to improve quality of life, and especially the quality of life of vulnerable populations. That's the reason for being here. Thank you. As editorial committee, we wish with and also, I think you should read our magazine. And we are leaving a folder here with a QR code that you can use to read our publication. Your comments are very welcome. And thank you so much for the opportunity. We thank you, Professor Normanda. Thank you. We thank you for your effort, your work, and also thanking Elisa, Osvaldo Cruz, and Juliana, our colleague here at CNPq, and Mariana, this effort that Mariana made folder here, publication, and it's a very beautiful publication. We haven't printed any copies yet. It's a book, but we are going to print some copies and disseminate. And so it is a moment for celebration at CNPq, and this record in book format was a fantastic idea, and it's very beautiful, and your presentation was very rich. Thank you very much, Professor. We will now move to the last moment. We have a video with the keynote speech by Walter Leal, who is an old friend of ours, professor in Japan, and well, he graduated in Japan. He's Brazilian from Pernambuco, but he graduated in Japan, then he went to California. He is a fantastic, and so we invited him for a keynote speech, and so he prepared a video for us. Please, professor in Japan, start here. Walter, are you online? Yes, yes, I'm here. Thank you for accepting the invitation by CNPq. I'm sorry for the delay. We are not as punctual as we wish for, but you can be sure we're making an effort. And I had the opportunity to watch the video. It's wonderful, the way that you conducted it, and we are going to enjoy very much your effort. Thank you very much, from CNPq. So with the floor, then Professor Valdir Leal. I had the opportunity to watch the video. Who is professor at UC Davis. Valdir. Thank you, Professor Evaldo Vilela, President of CNPq and President of the Brazilian Academy of Science, Luiz Davidovich, and we are all very proud of the Brazilian Academy of Science, the ABC, and the president will be a woman as of next month for the first time in the history of the Academy. We are very proud of Professor Helena and also proud of the Academy for this milestone. Congratulations to you all. Also greeting the other authorities, professors, students, everyone who is in the CNPq auditorium as well. And those who are with us on YouTube, we have 112 people participating on YouTube. And it's very interesting. The presentation of the magazine is very interesting. The Revista Que Water, it's really beautiful publication. I'm very proud of it. And I'm even a bit embarrassed because now I don't know how I'm going to match the level of the presentation of my predecessor. First, I would like to say that I'm very thankful for the invitation. UC Davis is also very honored for participating. Professor Evaldo said he invited me because of some details, but the fact is that they wanted a speaker from California, and the only one that wakes up early is myself. They had no other option, and so that's why they invited me. Of course, the presentation would be better if it were an in-person presentation, because I would join you at Mangai restaurant for some good food. You know, Zoom is a miracle in this pandemic, but it can be a bit boring as well, especially for long talks. They had no other option, so today I did things a little differently. Enjoy it. If you don't, you can ask for reimbursement because it was free of charge and you will have 100% reimbursement anyway. So Professor Evaldo forgot two important details. He forgot to say that I am from Pernambuco and that I worked at Rádio Jornal do Comércio. I actually paid for my education working for a radio station. And so today it will be Pernambuco speaking to the world. Free of charge and you will have 100% reimbursement anyway. So Professor Evaldo forgot two important details. He forgot to say that I am from Pernambuco and that I worked at Rádio Jornal do Comércio. I actually paid for my education working for a radio station.
Vamos então começar agora com a imagem do nosso.
So we will start with a message from our Chancellor, Dr. Gary May.
It's Gary May, and I'm the Chancellor of UC Davis in Northern California. I want to send my congratulations to CNPq on its 70th anniversary. UC Davis enjoys many successful relations with Brazil and the CNPq. We have strong faculty collaborations, more than 1,000 publications with Brazil in 2016. Our university also has 4 active agreements of cooperation with institutions in Brazil. UC Davis is home to more than 150 students and scholars from Brazil annually, and nearly 100 Davis faculty with professional links to Brazil. We are thankful to the CNPq for funding UC Davis' Science Without Borders program since 2012, which has supported more than 100 Brazilian students from the fields of animal science and plant biology to chemical engineering and environmental management. This program has transformed lives and enriched our UC Davis community. Congratulations once again to the CNPq. UC Davis is grateful for your partnership, and I look forward to collaborating more with our CNPq for funding UC Davis' Science Without Borders program since 2012.
Nosso agradecimento ao chanceler.
Thank you, Chancellor May, for your message. As he said in the message,
this program has transformed lives and enriched our UC Davis community. Congratulations once again to the CNPq. UC Davis is grateful for your partnership, and I look forward to collaborating more with
now with our group, together with the group of ESALT and IMCT, the CMU chemists, the Professor Mauricio Bento, and also Chancellor Márcio Silva Filho. of the University of São Paulo. And this was considered one of the best publications of ISME journal in 2021. UC Davis, congratulations to the group. During these 70 years, CNPq did some great things for science in Brazil and also for training of staff, influenced the lives of many people, including some who continue to have a brilliant international career, such as Professor José Scheigman. UC Davis, congratulations to the group. During these 70 years, it's a great pleasure to have in our celebration of the 70 years of CNPq, Professor José Scheigman.
Thank you. É grande prazer.
It's a great pleasure for me. I am, in fact, a child of CNPq, a creation of CNPq, so a product, right? So it's very important to participate in the celebration of this institution that has done so much for Brazil. Your brilliant career, you are now professor at Columbia University and also emeritus professor of Princeton. You are famous in Chicago. Brilliant career started with a scientific initiation grant from CNPq. Is that true? Yes, it's true. It started when I, by chance, stood up at the door of INPA to take a course. INPA, of course, at that time was an institution that was part of CNPq. It was not yet an autonomous institution that it became later. It was part of CNPq. So I got to INPA to take a course. And in mid-course or towards the end of the course, Professor Leopoldo Narvin, one of the major Brazilian mathematicians of his generation, great mathematician, he said that I could obtain a scientific initiation grant from CNPq. I didn't even know that such a thing existed. And CNPq played a key role in research and development in Brazil. But let's start with an important fact, an important milestone, the capacity building of Brazilian mathematics. Can you comment on that? Of course. When we started, we had some Brazilian heroes who had studied part abroad, part in Brazil. The first doctorates, doctors coming from the US. And so this is the generation that I met when I arrived at INPA. Narvi, Maurício Peixoto, Elon Lages Lima. So these people were already there. Silvio Machado. So these are the first people that had gone to take a doctorate in the US and had returned to INPA. And this was complemented by a great number of foreign visitors, foreign professors who came, gave courses, spent some time, etc. With time, INPA became increasingly important for mathematics, not only in Brazil, but in the world. And the culmination of this was the Fields Medal given to Arthur Ávila, which is not only a medal given to a Brazilian, and that in itself is already very meritorious, but it is a medal given to a person who was trained, took his doctorate, wrote his doctorate thesis at INPA, a Brazilian institution. And I think it will take some time for a person with training, for another person, right, trained in the Southern Hemisphere, completely in the Southern Hemisphere, to win the Fields Medal. Because the other people from the Global South, the so-called Global South, such as the Iranian mathematician who won the following version of the Fields Medal, she was trained in the United States, partly in Iran, but she took her doctorate in the US. Arthur was an INPA product, and this is very important. I would like to present some data now from the Congressional Research Service, a group of the US Congress that analyzes scientific data. And as shown here in the graph, the financial resources, the funding and where the funding is coming from. Of course, for basic research, most of the resources come from the federal government, with almost 41% of these resources. But we can see here that the businesses, right, the public sector also participates with a major share of the resources, even for basic research. But when we talk about applied science, the participation in the private sector is basic, much higher, 55%, and a smaller share of the federal government. 1% of these resources. But we can see here that the businesses, right, the public sector also
a
participates
participação
with a
do setor
major
privado.
In the area of development, there is greater participation of the private sector on this type of research, and a small part by the federal government for development. And where
Os gráficos
are
a
these
participação do setor
where is
privado.
this research carried out? Well, federal governments not only finance research, but they carry out research, such as USDA, UNAID. They also fund research by other labs, such as my case here at the university. So the higher education universities have the largest amount of basic research. And business is also quite close, right? But they carry out in applied research. The private sector has a higher number, 58%, and for development, almost all private, with 90% of research. So it is important for us to know where is this research taking place, and we are going to show several examples of financing entities. As shown here, in 2012, for the financing of my research, by NIH, USDA, NIFA, also a corporation that had a contract with FIPS and CAPES. What we have here is a very diversified portfolio with at least 26 agencies. In addition, state-level agencies, there's also the private sector and philanthropy. Let's talk about these cases. Let's talk about the National Science Foundation. And I invited a former director of NSF, Professor John Wingfield. Bom primeiro, state-level agencies.
Here on 70 years of funding science.
There's also the private sector.
I'm delighted to have an opportunity to tell you a little bit about how the National Science Foundation works. It is an unusual funding agency in the US in that it only funds fundamental science, basic sciences, the spectrum of sciences, and which can inform education that is then taken over by the National Institutes of Health, US Department of Agriculture, and so forth. But within the Science Foundation, there is a director and an assistant and a director that are appointed by the President of the United States. Then there are spectrum of assistant directors, each one of which is the head of one of the scientific directors. I was head of biology for 4 years. More recently, there have been more directorates that have been appointed as a big funding increase to the National Science Foundation, actually to develop technologies associated with energy and food, and also information. But the fundamental 7 directorates are still there. Within biology, we had directorates, divisions, each one with its division director. For example, there would be molecular cell biology, division of integrative organismal systems, division of environmental biology, and biological infrastructure, which funds a lot of big equipment within biological sciences, core areas and so forth, as well as stations. Divisions.
Thank you very much, John, for being with us today and participating in this celebration.
Molecular cell biology. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
It is also interesting to know how NASA finances its research, and I invited Dr. Nandel Suzuki to talk to us. É prazer tê-lo aqui.
System of NASA's Artemis project. Nandel, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you. We're excited to return astronauts to the moon through the program, and we're hoping for 2025. We can, so very soon.
Nandel, how does NASA go about funding the research that's needed for those projects? System of NASA's
yes, well, you know, NASA is a $24 billion agency every year is our budget, and we have many different projects in that. For space exploration, 2025. Small programs. The one I'm working on is to build a lunar lander for astronauts, the human landing system. We recently signed a contract. Yes, well, SpaceX. You know, NASA is a $24 billion contract agency develops and demonstrates that. And we have so we kind of do a partnership approach where we have contractors that work closely with NASA in collaboration, but they have specific responsibilities. And we have NASA engineers who work with the company's engineers. We don't own the hardware. We are paying for the development and the demonstration of a spacecraft. We collect data from, so we can use data work closely with in the future for other projects. But they have specific responsibilities. But we, in this case, the ownership of the hardware belongs to the company. And so we kind of share, own the risks and the benefits of this program so that they can use their spacecraft for NASA purposes and also for their own commercial purposes. Work closely with in the future for other projects.
Thank you very much, Nandel, for your participation today.
My pleasure, Walter. Thank you. In this case, the ownership of the hardware belongs to the company.
É o chamado Superfund.
Another line of financing is the subfunding. Professor Bruce Hammock has worked in this program for 35 years, and I invited him to talk to us about it.
One of the grants that I have in the laboratory, the program actually started with what's called Superfund the U.S. And these are toxic waste sites that were designated by Congress as funding for the mob given by Congress. And they took a percentage of that money and gave it to NIH to do the basic research needed to evaluate one of the critical human exposures and how to avoid program actually started and how to mitigate the Superfund toxic waste sites. And these are toxic waste sites. This program has now been going on, designated by Congress. David was the first program in the nation by Congress to actually receive these, which we've received continually since the program to do the research.
Financiamento da pesquisa nos diversos laboratórios é comum, mas existem também os centros de pesquisa. E para falar sobre isso,
common to have this financing, and I invited Professor John Hildebrand from the University of Arizona to talk to us.
Hildebrand, who is the International Secretary of the National Academy of Science and also a corresponding member of the Brazilian Academy of Science. John, it's a great pleasure to have you here today.
To have this financing,
so much, Walter.
And I invited Professor
honored to participate in this 70th anniversary celebration of the CNPq and to acknowledge its president, my colleague and friend, Evaldo Vela, as well as the leaders of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, also great friends and colleagues, Luis Davidovich and Helena Nader. So much, Walter. Thanks so much for inviting me. An honor to participate
we are
in the
talking about
70th anniversary
and
celebration.
I remember that you played a crucial role in the foundation of the Center for Insect Science at the University of
Brazilian Academy of Sciences, also
and how the funding to that initiative.
Helena Nader. Yeah, that's a wonderful story, and I'm so glad you asked me, Walter. In 1987, I believe it was, I got together just in the late afternoon to have a beer with two colleagues, one from the Department of Chemistry and the other from the Department of Entomology, and I from my new Department of Neuroscience at the University of Arizona. So the three of us in different departments all shared research activity on insects. And we, in the course of our conversation, with help from beer, we came up with a great idea, which was to establish a center for insect science that would be broadly based and would draw people from all over the university who were working one way or another with insects. How to fund it, though? This was the question. How do we launch such an adventure that came across different colleges and in course of our conversation? Well, it happened at that time that the National Science Foundation had just launched a new program called the Biological Centers Grants Program, and there was a call for proposals. Well, we thought we might not have much of a chance because they had just started this program, great proposals from all over the country, but we put in a very strong proposal, and to our astonishment, we received one of the three Biological Centers grants that were awarded from the National Science Foundation. And with that funding, we were able to in 1988. That was a project that was a 25-year project. The first 5 years of it funded very well by the National Science Foundation Center grant. And then after that, when we had fully established the center and it was up and doing all the success we had hoped it would do, we were able to secure all kinds of other grant funding, private foundations, project funding agencies. But it was the National Science Foundation that took a chance with us and helped us start the center. So it was pivotally important support. And then after that,
thank you much. And I hope we're going to see you at the meetings of ABC in Rio de Janeiro or another meeting organized by CNPq.
I look forward to that very much, Walter. Thank you so much.
We are now going to talk about the synergy of financial resources from the private sector with the federal government. I invited Dr. Sally Rocky.
I hope we're going to see you celebration of the 70th year of the CNPq in Rio. She's the inaugural executive director of the Foundation for Food and Agricultural
Synergy of financial resources from the private sector with the federal government.
Today.
Thank you so much for me, Walter, and congratulations on the 70 years.
Dr. Rocky, what's the CNPq agricultural research FAR?
So FAR is which is a nonprofit organization. We are the foundation for the United States Department of Agriculture, but we're also an independent foundation to receive money from Congress. And what we do, we're a third type of funding for agricultural research, which we create the combination of the two in that we create public-private partnerships to advance science. Organization.
You also spent 20 years as USDA in the cooperative state research, education, and extension service. How that differs from FAR and from other sources of funding for research in the United States?
Well, of course, the USDA is a government agency, and and nonprofit. So government agency is different than the foundation in that it is public sector that is funded through the United States government. And the USDA has both in intramural laboratories, that means they have their own government scientists, and they also have extramural programs, which are grant programs that go out to scientists throughout the United States and around the world to conduct innovative research. So I spent almost 20 years there overseeing the grant process, a large piece of what the USDA is, and they are very innovative, and they are very creative, and they do a lot of intramural laboratories. That means they
have such a unique perspective
and they
because
also
you
have
served
extramural
at the NIH
programs that go out to
as
scientists
NIH
throughout the
Director
United
for
States and around the
extramural
world
research.
to conduct
Can you explain to us
innovative
what's the
research.
difference between
So
NIH
I
and
spent
the
almost 20
USDA that
years
you just
there
explained?
overseeing the right. So the USDA is the Department of Agriculture. Their concentration in the science area, of course, is on agricultural research. The National Institutes of Health is also a science agency in the federal government of the United States, but its concentration is on biomedical research. NIH, as it's called, is the largest research organization in the world. They have a $50 billion a year appropriation to conduct extraordinarily innovative research that improves people's and the health of people around the world. They are primarily extramural, which means they give most of their money out in the form of grants. About 85% of their funding goes out in the form of grants, but they also have a large intramural program. Again, intramural means government scientists in their own laboratories. So it's an amazing place. Most of you probably heard a lot about NIH during the COVID pandemic because NIH did some of the fundamental research in the development of the vaccines.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Vamos falar agora de NIFA.
NIFA with former director
So it's an amazing place. Most of you probably heard a lot about NIH during the COVID pandemic because NIH did some of the
NIFA during the Obama administration. Sunny, such a great pleasure to have you today.
Walter, thank you so much for having me as part of this wonderful celebration of the 70th anniversary of the Brazilian equivalent of the National Science Foundation. So NIFA, N-I-F-A, it stands for the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and it is comparable to the National Science Foundation of the United States and the National Institutes of Health and other federal funding agencies. These are created and they get money appropriated by Congress to be research, science, education, transmission of knowledge, and the delivery of knowledge to the end users. And so NIFA, very specific, and is about agriculture, food, about environmental issues, about climate change, and things like that, particularly related to agriculture and nutrition. The money that comes to NIFA is appropriated by the United States Congress. The recommendation is made by the president, and then Congress will appropriate. And the budget for NIFA is around $1.7 billion US dollars. And it's also because states are required to match and the leverage is $5 billion to $7 billion total funding for food and agricultural research.
Thank you very much, Sunny, for making the time to talk to us today.
Thank you.
Uma outra linha de financiamento de
very common research financing line in the United States is philanthropy, and to explain how philanthropy participates in American research, I invited Professor Tony James from the University of California in Irvine.
Such a great pleasure to have with us today in the celebration of the 70th anniversary of CNPq, Professor Tony James from UC Irvine. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Walter, and thanks for the opportunity. And I would like to say congratulations on achieving a significant milestone. It's been my honor to have brilliant Brazilian scientists working in my laboratory throughout my career. We work on the insect vectors of disease, focusing on mosquitoes that transmit human malaria parasites and arboviruses. We are developing genetic tools to prevent the transmission transmission by mosquitoes of these specific pathogens. When I first started working in this area, we had to do a significant amount of technical development to make it possible. This development helped us do things like isolating genes, develop transgenesis strategies to test the control DNAs, and ultimately develop gene drive systems for rapid introduction of desirable traits into populations. This kind of technology was not funded by the conventional governmental funding agencies, for example, NIH, but through private support, starting with the vision of the John D. Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation to bring modern science and molecular genetics to vector biology. Agencies such as the Burroughs Wellcome and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation made taking on research that paid off only when they were completed. Because our work straddles the basic and applied, foundation support was absolutely critical. Starting with the vision of the John D.
So,
T. MacArthur
vector biology, as you know today, would exist without it.
That is correct. I mean, the spark that lit the fire was provided by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. And then, of course, following that, federal agencies like the National Institutes of Health taking on that were basic in this area. Actually, the stimulus is provided by a private foundation.
Would exist without patients.
Great, and once again, congratulations. It's a milestone. The fire was provided by the progressive well in the future.
Filantropia também se destaca.
Philanthropy, we also have the HHMI, which finances research, including the research by a famous Brazilian, Daniel Mucida. He is from Minas Gerais, and he did his graduation at the Federal University of Minas Gerais. After that, he took his PhD at the University of São Paulo and also New York University. Daniel, it's a pleasure to have you with us. We also have the HHMI, which finances research.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for being here and also to congratulate you for the 70 years at CNPq. It is essential for Brazilian science and research. Daniel, you are a researcher HHMI. Would you like to explain to us what it means and how it helps in the fomenting of research here in the US? Well, the HHMI means Howard Hughes Medical Institute. It is a philanthropical institute, non-profit in the US, one of the largest in the world in terms of grants, that was established a few decades ago to help in the complementation of public financing to research in the US. Obviously, being a very large institute, it complements the grants that come from the government. For example, NIH and my university and your university receive financing from them, but it is a complement, a complementation, a supplementation of an initiative that is private, philanthropic, and helps us. It has around 300 researchers in the US, investigators of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, and basically it provides grant that is generous for lab research, and also it helps us because it covers wages. Instead of having the salary paid by the federal government, it covers our wages and also gives opportunities for extra grants such as equipment, etc., in addition to the yearly research grant lab research, and also it helps us in addition to the R01 that comes from the federal government. Daniel, it covers. In your history, you also had a fellowship, a grant for scientific initiation, right? In Brazil, when you studied at the Federal University of Minas Gerais, right? Yes, yes, no doubt that the CNPq grant I received was a very valuable help when I was starting my career as a researcher at the University of Minas Gerais in Brazil. And it actually allowed me to go into science without having to have a job, so that I had an allowance for transportation and food, etc. And that was really important. And we need to update the scientific grants that were cut recently. In my case, and many other researchers, it was a core health. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you for being here with us. And to talk about innovation, I invited Scott Hutchinson. And that was really important. And we need to update the scientific grants that were cut recently.
He was in the faculty at the University of Nebraska as a professor, served also in the private sector, former president of the Entomological Society of America, and recently served as Secretary of Agriculture of the United States Department of Agriculture. Scott, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leal. It's such a pleasure to see you, my friend, and I'm honored to be able to contribute to the special program. First, let me just say many congratulations to CNPq on a distinct history leading to the 70th milestone anniversary. What a tremendous legacy you all have made, Phil, and indeed the world, by focusing on tremendous scientific talent on your nation's biggest challenges, and by working collaboratively with your global counterparts, like the Global Network of the Clinical Sciences Academy Council, the Inter-American Academies of Sciences, just to name a few. You've really expanded your impact and influence. And most of all, you're still very, very young and have so much more influence and impact ahead. The world.
Well, you have a ground that comes from academia and also private sector. You have this vision that you should have innovation and the discovery goals are very important in our enterprise. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for sure. I mean, from the private sector through my time at USDA, one of the things that I've advocated for strongly is the notion of what that means is we all understand, and certainly this audience understands the importance of research in all facets and approaches to really understand and scope the possibilities. And we also have many opportunities through the government, through various organizations, including private organizations, to develop a strategy, to develop things that really we look at need to address in the future. But Walter, what's often missing is somewhere in the middle, that vision of what that solution could look like. What is the outcome of this research? How does it link together? Because there are so many moving parts, and no particular program is likely to solve the entire challenge. And so it's important to develop what I refer to as discovery goals to steer, guide the development of research towards those outcomes to help best address those solutions that we all seek, whether it's in terms of environmental, in terms of economical aspects of agriculture, which has been, and no particular program is entire challenge.
Thank you so much for your participation today. É prazer enorme ver o progresso da ciência brasileira.
It is great to see the progress of Brazilian science, as shown here in this graph by the National Science Foundation, including 15 countries, producers of publications in science and engineering. And this is only including domestic authors, not those in collaboration with international authors. Brazil was on 17th position and now we are 10th. This is great. Of course, we know China and the US, and followed by India, Japan, Russia, Germany, UK, Italy, South Korea. Brazil is in a remarkable position. It is great to see Brazil in this position, and of course, we know that to that effect, CNPq is key for the progress of Brazilian science. China and the US, several collaborations, international collaborations, in a visit here in this photograph by the National Science Foundation, and President Aragão invited me to participate in the photo. Another important photograph is this one, the former president of Dr. Glaucio Oliva, former president of CNPq, signing the agreement of Science Without Borders for graduate or undergraduate students. That was very important for the life of several students. One of them, Tami Guimarães, that is not related to Jorge Guimarães, but she's a professor here in the US. She's Brazilian. She graduated at the Federal University of ABC. She studied her doctorate degree here in the US, and today she is a professor at Penn State in mechanical engineering. Tami, it is a pleasure having you here with us today. Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. She's a professor here in the US. And you came here to the UC Davis as a student of Science Without Border, right? Can you talk to us about it? Yes, I've always wanted to study abroad in mechanical engineering. Before I went to college with us today, and I studied at UFABC. And you came here, and then I participated in the Science Without Borders program, and I studied for 2 years in UC Davis in mechanical and electrical engineering, and also I was a trainee in a campus, and it was transforming.
So that was the key for me to decide to do my doctorate. And so it's this fostering of Brazilian research that really helps in training people. So in 2018, you concluded your doctorate at Virginia Polytech, and after that you ended up applying for a Penn State to work as a professor. So the question is, why didn't you remain in Brazil? That's a good question, Professor Walter. I also had a Science Without Borders grant for the full doctorate, which I took at Virginia Tech on a mechanical engineer with a grant from Brazil as well. And of course, I wanted to return to Brazil. And for many years, I really wanted very much to return to Brazil and be back in Brazil as a professor, as a researcher, but unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity. I concluded in 2018, and I went straight on to a postdoctorate in Germany, and I also worked in the industry. And so this vacancy at Penn State was open as a professor of the Department of Mechanical Engineering, and I embraced it, and now I am in Brazil and returning the investment that was made in my research and my training to Brazil. So just to clarify, you are paying back to Brazil the investment made not only in Penn State was open in terms of returning dollars to Brazil, but you are doing something that you have no obligation to do, which is to disseminate research and strengthen ties between Brazil and the US, between Penn State and other universities in Brazil, right? Exactly. I do believe in the potential of Brazilian students and the quality of teaching, higher education teaching in Brazil. And I really want that you have no obligation to create more opportunities for Brazilian students to travel abroad and for American students to come to Brazil and spend some time here, having this experience, experiencing a different culture, a different language, an international experience, in short. Tell me, is there anything else that you achieved during your time with Science Without Borders in your visit here to the US? Yes, of course. In addition to the international experience, which was incredible for my English, for friendships and so on, and it was during Science Without Borders at UC Davis that I met my husband, Pedro Ivo Guimarães. He was also Guimarães before we met, and he was taking biotechnology at Federal University of Pará. Without the opportunity of meeting in California through the Science Without Borders, we wouldn't have met here in Brazil. And so the program is very special in my heart and in my life. Another Science Without Borders student who became a data scientist, and he was Oliver. 10 years ago, you were here at UC Davis. That's true. I was starting this extraordinary adventure. What did you learn in your stay when you came with Science Without Borders? Basically, two main things. First, fluency in English, both for reading, writing, and communication. And also, I was introduced to the world of data science, which was also very important. And with this learning, how are you paying back the investment that Brazil did? Well, today, I can use the skills that I earned there to work with science, fluency, research, and innovation here in the country. Work at a laboratory connected to the Federal University of Campina Grande with national and international partners. And I work on development of software in the area of data science, working with artificial intelligence and state-of-the-art technology with international partners. And I'm able to contribute to the development of the country and also help at a laboratory connected to the join major nations which are advancing technological development in the world. Very good, and keep up the good work, and let's continue our celebration of the 70th anniversary of CNPq. Science Without Borders has influenced the lives of many students. Rafael Goss today is a businessman. 10 years have gone by since you arrived here with the support of CNPq and Science Without Borders, and you spent some time here at UC Davis. What happened from then on up to now? A lot. It was the best experience of my life. From then on, after the exchange, I took my master with a master's grant from CNPq in partnership with Fundação Araucária. Then I became an engineer for an automotive company, a startup, where I am developing autonomous vehicles for industrial logistics. It was quite a long path. And what influenced you most to come here to the US in terms of and also becoming a businessman 10 years later? Well, I think the communication, the English, learning English was very important, and also the challenge of joining a completely new environment with unknown people. This really strengthened me as a person, personally, and also competition with Americans. So, having to work in a different environment and helped me become more confident and willing to risk and invest. Thank you. Thank you for your participation. English professor, an honor. Let us continue now with the interview with Professor José Shakeman. What is your message here for the young people, the ones that are starting now, like you? They went to IMPA's door to take a course and ended up with a brilliant career. What message do you have for them? Well, I don't know about a brilliant career, but first I would like to give a message to politicians in Brazil. CNPq, an honor. Let us continue now. It's an institution that historically is very important. And this year, well, in 2021, which has just ended, it had the smallest budget in 2 decades. And so that's something, it's a major destruction of an institution that is still very good, but could be much better if it had maintained at the growth pace that it had in past decades. And the message that I have is that doing research is interesting. It's a great academic background, and well, I'm talking about mathematics mostly, but also biology, physics. It's a major very important field, and also social sciences such as economics, which benefits a lot from advances in these other areas. So I think it's very good. The career, even in Brazil today, in spite of all its problems created more recently, it is still a very attractive career that allows for a lot of success and integration in the world economy and the world science. I'm always very enthusiastic with the number of Brazilians who are doing great research in my field, which is economics in Brazil. They are doing state-of-the-art research, publishing in the best international journals. This is a much bigger group than when I started in this profession, because in the beginning we were just 2 or 3, right? But suddenly we get to a point when we have a large number. Frequently, Brazilian researchers are seen doing state-of-the-art studies and works that are published in very frequently cited periodicals. Now I have to ask you about your Zoom background, which is Rio de Janeiro. Yes, that's how much I miss Rio de Janeiro. I'm not in Rio de Janeiro now. I grew up there, of course, and I miss it very much. And so sometimes, well, when I didn't put this one up, I had a football one, because I am a Flamengo supporter. I still support Flamengo. And so the Zoom background links me to the culture that I miss so much in spite of all of these years in the US. Thank you. Thank you. That's how much I miss Rio de Janeiro. Thank you. So we are back, and in order to end, well, we know that we are going through a very difficult moment, but thanks to the mobilization of CNPq, SBPC, Brazilian Science Academy, so the resources have been released and allowing for a universal call, the HIGH project, and the continuation of the National Institutes of Science and Technology. And so we'll have better days ahead. And so let us continue CNPq doing fantastic work in the past 70 years. I would also like to thank Lishane and Patricia, who are simultaneously translating. I think the worst is not the Portuguese to English or English to Portuguese. I think it is to understand the Portuguese spoken by a Northeasterner. They are doing excellent work in the interpretation. Elise and Mariana from ABC and CNPq as well, who have been behind this and also working Saturday, Sunday tirelessly to make this work possible. We had to do things a little differently, right? A hybrid with the live and video presentation, because the videos, when they are broadcast directly through the Zoom, they begin faltering with low quality. And so we had this strategy of kind of a sandwich, right? With an initial presentation and then the video, then the end. And so once again, I'd like to congratulate CNPq. I have 2 more hours to talk, but I know that you want to go to lunch. And if you go to Mangai, please send me a photograph of the great Northeastern food that I miss so much. And I just want to end here, like Ivan Lima at the Rádio Nacional do Comércio. He used to end by saying, and remember, supporters, Julio Adnet will always be ours, right? Of course. So I would like to do the same. He was such an important person who helped me tremendously in my career. But I know that you want to go to lunch, and he actually allowed me to get into university, and so he was very important for me. So I will end as Ivan Lima saying that thanks to CNPq, the Fields Medal belongs to Avila forever. Thank you. Will always be ours, right? Of course. And so I would like to do the same. He was such an important person who helped me tremendously. On behalf of CNPq, I'd like to thank you for your participation and reminding you that we should have invited you earlier, but given all the some difficulties here during the pandemic and a few staff here in-house, we weren't able to, but in the short time you did brilliant work. And this video with this keynote speech, it will remain in the history of CNPq, and we are going to disseminate it because it is sensational the way you conducted it, bringing Brazilians and Americans to talk about CNPq, and in-house we weren't even more than that, showing how science is funded at CNPq, actually in the US. And this is not generally known in Brazil. Few people know how research is funded in the US, and you have given us very exciting information, and I'm sure people will pursue this because we have benchmarks. Life is made of benchmarks, and we are in a transition here in Brazilian science and science all around the world as well. But I believe that here even more strongly, because we were actually a bit paralyzed in terms of funding models, and we need to evolve. This is something we are doing here at CNPq, and so what you're bringing here is very important. And I must admit to you, given my attributions here, I did not pay attention to everything, but since you were here in Brazilian science, great in preparing a recording, this will be eternal here for CNPq. We thank you very much, and we are going to reproduce it at many different moments here at CNPq. Thank you, Walter, as always, a great Brazilian, helping us greatly in California. Thank you, and congratulations, and I wish you all success. Thank you, Evaldo, and also to remind you that, well, if you think that a lot is spent on research, the whole annual NIH budget here was equivalent to the amount used to purchase Twitter. One person bought Twitter with a budget that matches the spending of NIH in a year, the organization that spends most in research. Thank you, Evaldo. And so it was great to show you all these details and bring this information to people in Brazil. Good luck. Congratulations. Budget here was equivalent to. We end the opening of the seminar. You are all invited to the round tables. The complete program is available on the website of CNPq, at the CNPq website. So it was great to show you all these details and bring this information to people in Brazil. Good luck. Congratulations. Budget here was equivalent to. We end the opening of the seminar. You are all invited to the round tables. The complete program is available on the website of CNPq, at the CNPq website. So it was great to show you all these details and bring this information to people in Brazil. Good luck. Congratulations. Budget here was equivalent to. We end the opening of the seminar. You are all invited to the round tables. The complete program is available on the website of CNPq, at the CNPq website. So it was great to show you all these details and bring this information to people in Brazil. Good luck. Congratulations. Budget here was equivalent to. We end the opening of the seminar. You are all invited to the round tables. The complete program is available on the website of CNPq, at the CNPq website. And so it was great to show you all these details and bring this information to people in Brazil. Good luck. Congratulations. Budget here was equivalent to. We end the opening of the seminar. You are all invited to the round tables. The complete program is available on the website of CNPq, at the CNPq website. So it was great to show you all these details and bring this information to people in Brazil. Good luck. Congratulations. Budget here was equivalent to we end the opening of the seminar. You are all invited to the round tables. The complete program is available